Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Democratic View. I'm the hostess. My name is Phyllis Italiano, and with me today is, I think, one of my real heroes. Really, I mean it. Don't laugh. I mean it. I've known a lot of politicians. I'm doing this show 8.5 years. You know how many politicians I've known?
I think you've probably gone through a few. I know East Hampton has.
And let me tell you, there is a great difference between politicians and politicians. And there's no doubt about it that you have done a remarkable job as the council person. Now you are running for supervisor.
Town supervisor.
And the election for you is June 22nd?
Well, actually, early voting starts June 12th.
I know, early voting, and I know how to do that, too.
Me, too. A lot of people are turning to it.
And
I did want to, when I ran, I said, my main reason was because East Hampton is my home, and I want to protect it. But I also wanted to see whether I could inject some candor and transparency and plain speaking into the operations of the local government, because I think it always helps if the public can understand better what we're doing. We make better decisions. So.
Well, that's very true, as a matter of fact, that people do need to understand what's going on in and the local government is truly affects your life, your day-to-day existence.
It does, and it's hard to understand. I mean, we have a few people that are board watchers. They watch every board meeting, and so they begin to get the narrative, because it continues from board meeting to board meeting. But if you're not a regular board watcher, it can be really pretty opaque and difficult to really understand what's going on. And I think that's not good for decision making. I think we generally, having been a land use lawyer for 35 years and dealing with neighborhood groups and folks that wanted to protect the environment, I've learned how important it is to listen to people. They know their localities the best, and their local knowledge really helps the decision making. So to the extent that the public really is engaged with the town board, it helps us. We make better decisions.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I absolutely. I know if I don't see shows, if I don't see what's going on, I mean the council meetings. If I don't,
which are sometimes a show.
Yeah, sometimes it is a show. It's right. If I'm not watching those meetings, and catching something like the planning board or some of the other meetings that are going on, the trustee meetings and things like that,
it's hard to keep up and understand.
Then you got to read the newspaper.
Yeah, you do. And that is, that's something I wish, more of our voters and constituents did, because it helps us, but it also, I think it would improve the government to have, the more engaged the citizenry is, the better we govern. There's something has just happened. It's in today's East Hampton Star. There's sort of a move afoot on the town board to change and do a lot of clearing and change the vegetation on the Springs Park, which is also, I think, affectionately known as the dog park. It's more than just a dog park. It's a beautiful hiking park, bird watching too, and
it's in Springs where I live.
And it's really beautiful. I mean, this is one of the most beautiful parks in East Hampton. It is not native vegetation or indigenous vegetation, because we bought it as a nursery property, but you can't remake everything and take it back to the colonial days. And it is, I'm in that park a lot. I will freely confess I own 2 dogs that both love that park. I don't get there as much as I would like to, but it's just a stunning place. I walk there in the dead of February, in rainy, foggy weather when you think it's so miserable out, and it's stunningly beautiful in a different way. And I don't want to see it changed. And I'm connecting it to our conversation by saying I don't see, I don't hear, I don't see any great grassroots movement to change what's going on in that park. You know, it's sort of like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I want that park to stay as it is.
You want that park to stay there. I'm at the end of that road there on 3 Mile Harbor, so I really want that place.
Yeah.
Because as it is, 3 Mile Harbor is very difficult to get around.
It's really like, it's a respite when you pull in there. I actually, this may be controversial, but I don't even want them to pave the road going in. There's a portion of it that's not paved. I mean, I like it being rural, and I've never had a trouble parking there, and it's just, it changes your mood. It really does when you walk there, because, you know, it is a little overgrown, which I like, because it makes, when you round a corner, you step into a new view, and it just feels, you know, it's sort of exciting, and it's very beautiful. So I'm hoping, you know, that the board changes direction here and leaves it alone. Sometimes leaving things alone is a good way to go.
You know, it's interesting that I should hear you talking about that area, because I remember when I first knew you, I think maybe one of my early times interviewing you when you were running for council, you told me about that area as you drive in on 27, that's to the right, and that lovely water area.
Yes, yeah. Well, there are many views out here that are I mean, that's really the land here. The landscape is just amazing, and, you know, the water seems to touch everything.
Yeah, and I had never noticed it before, and now sometimes every time I drive by it, I have to look at it and say, wow, isn't that a beautiful place?
I know there are many of those views where you just have to remind yourself how lucky you are to be here.
Right.
I mean, I live near 2 holes of water with the pond, and I confess, again, I haven't done a lot of ice skating in recent times because my son is, you know, grown up. But that pond, when it's frozen and the kids are playing hockey on it, it's like a Currier and Ives postcard. It's such perfect small town life, and I want to stay in touch with that. I mean, not to get back to issues, but, you know, one thing that I've thought about is we're going to move our Little League ball fields, and we're moving them into a water recharge overlay area, which is where we replenish our drinking water, and the town board looks like determined to make at least one of the ballparks an artificial turf field, and I really don't want to see that happen. And it's partly nostalgia, but it's also, you know, just common sense that it's an area, you know, that's a non-recyclable product. It's caused illegal dumping problems throughout the United States. It's got petrochemicals in it. It's got some of the chemicals that polluted Wayne Scott's water, and it's like, to me,
PFOAs?
Yeah, to me it's just, you know, it's not consistent with who we are. You know, even if real turf fields require more maintenance and more money, I think it's worth it. And I try to keep that in mind, you know, who we are and who we want to be here. It's important to cherish those things, because they don't disappear in bold strokes. It's like little cuts. It's death by 1,000
You're
cuts.
absolutely right. That's exactly how it happens.
Yeah, it's almost unnoticeable, and then you look around and say, "Gee, what happened? You know, why is that view not there? Why do we have a big house in that field? Or why didn't we protect that that open field?"
There's a place right now on the end of 3 Mile Harbor where I drive by, where a big house is going up that had been a field. And I look at it and say, wait a minute, why wasn't that bought up by CPF money?
We are keeping an eye on it. We do a lot of purchasing, but, you know, nonetheless, there are some applications for really huge houses that probably should be, you know, restrained. And, you know, one thing that I was concerned about was, you know, we've spent millions of dollars preserving fields, farm fields, and open spaces, and then they kind of, you know, some of them are on individual landowners' property. They're easements. Some are, you know, protected lands, but they have a tendency when ownership changes, they forget that they're protected lands, and so they put their lawns on them, and suddenly they start losing their character. So one of the things I did early on was look through the zoning code for little adjustments that we could make that reminded our reviewing boards that they have the right to protect those lands that we spent millions of dollars in. Keep in mind whether a new application is going to damage the view shed in particular. And Wainscott was very worried about that, actually. They felt that they were losing, the country kind of landscape that they were used to. So it was an effort to stop that.
Yes. Yeah, you can't get to LTV without going through Wainscott.
And Wainscott, I mean, having, served as their liaison for 3 years, and they had a water crisis in the beginning with contaminated water from the PFOs.
Oh my God.
And I really feel very close to Wainscott just because that was my assignment for 3 years, and they were in trouble, and I didn't want to stop with just bringing in public water, which would have taken 2 years to do, and we did that fast and we did it well. But in the meantime, I didn't think it was right to just give them bottled water, and fought to get them in-home filtration grants so that they could put in-home filtration while they're waiting, because those PFOs are dangerous.
Listen, I knew somebody during that time, or before you got there, who was taking a shower with a glass of water.
Yeah.
And that's how this poor guy would be able to shower himself. I mean, can you imagine?
Yeah, I had people calling me saying, I'm a senior citizen, I can't lift those 5-gallon
God, yes,
bottles of water. So I was glad to do that. We've had some other crises that affected Amagansett. Had dust storms, and I happened to be the liaison to the Agriculture Committee, and was able to get the farmers and the community that was affected by those dust storms in Amagansett to agree on some measures and get them enacted into law, which I think will stop the problem. But I had to fight that, and my current opponent was not happy about taking those measures. And fortunately, I was able to persuade the town board to do it. So Amagansett got a little protection from that, and one of the businesses closed, the library closed, the stores were damaged, houses were they had massive amounts of this very powdery dust. It was really bad.
I remember that dust.
Kids couldn't take recess from school. They kept them indoors because they were worried about air quality. I had parents calling me up saying, I have a child that's got asthma, you got to do something about it. So that's what that's what I like about local government, is that I like to engage it and try to help folks if we can.
Well, in local government also, you can have an immediate effect and get some results.
Yeah, I mean, it also means you have immediate contact with your constituents, which I'm okay with that. I mean, I do kind of expect it's not all going to be smooth sailing. There are going to be folks that come in and are not happy, but I've actually, my experience has been that just listening to people is much of what people are hungry for. I've talked to people who I think understand that an elected official doesn't have to agree with them on everything, but they want to be heard. They want to know that they've been listened to. And frankly, I think it's productive for us. I learn a lot from people that call me up, and some of them yell, not many, but some of them call me up. And so what I've been saying, and I mean this, it's not just campaign talk, is anybody with an idea is okay by me. I don't care if they're Republican, Democrat, Independent. I don't care if I like them or I don't like them. If somebody comes up and has an idea that looks like it's good for the town, I'm game to try it. I don't care who the source is. The town's too small to engage in these kind of petty, I don't like him, so I'm not going to listen to him, and I don't like her. I don't want any part of it. I've not liked that aspect of government, that kind of personalized aspect of it. Despite the fact that I find myself, engaging in debates that can sometimes be a little rancorous, the town board. But I don't know. Overall, I have to say I still enjoy talking to people, and I think that's what it's all about.
You know why you enjoy talking to people? Because you listen.
Well, I've learned the hard way that it's an important. I learn. The bottom line is it helps me, and I learn. So I think it's important, especially as you get a little older. I don't want to discuss age, but to try to listen. It keeps you flexible. I've also been I've been a little disappointed by some of the things I've seen, and we've seen some recent news accounts about the Duryea case and how that was handled in Montauk. And
How about explaining some of that to people, because some people don't know much about the Duryea case.
Really, what they don't know about it because we didn't know about it as it broke into the newspapers, and a lot of the information's come out in the litigation that followed. Essentially, my opponent had an early secret meeting with the developer of Duryea's that was never disclosed to the town board. And that's a problem because there is an obligation to keep them apprised. And there was an agreement struck at the meeting that if the developer would sue the town would not defend the cases but would just settle the case, and that would move the issue out of the public eye, not in front of the town board, and it would be easier to give him the relief that he wanted. And
what were some of the things he wanted?
Well, he really is interested, I think, in turning Duryea's into a full-scale, very upscale restaurant. It's been a very casual place where they ate on paper plates, and you just had, a boiled lobster. Or
Been there, done that.
Yeah. So that's what he wants, and there's nothing wrong with his desire to do that, but we have a planning process to do that. And what happened is that is what, after the meeting, that's what happened. Like 3 weeks later, he launched 3 lawsuits against the town, and very surprisingly, the town attorney who was assigned never contested the cases. I don't want to get into all the nuts and bolts, but when you sue the town typically answers. There's a petition, then you answer, you assemble the record, you look up the law, you present this to the judge, and it's decided. Well, that was never done. There was never an answer prepared. There was never a record prepared. And that went on for more than a year. And the town board only met once or twice on the case. We never saw a settlement agreement. We never voted on a settlement agreement. And then out of the blue, about a year after that meeting that no one knew about, the town attorney delivered a court-ordered settlement and said, here it is, that's what the court decided. And I knew right away that something was wrong. The deal didn't make sense. It gave a lot to the owner that he had never been approved. It overruled an earlier zoning case. There were a lot of things that didn't add up. And finally, literally about a year after that first secret meeting, I finally spoke up at a town board meeting and said, this deal doesn't make sense. It's not good for the town. We didn't defend Montauk. And I was met, frankly and candidly, with very disparaging remarks from my opponent, who accused me of not working. He basically, which is, you can't.
That's funny.
You can't say, it's funny now, but it's, you can't really say anything worse about an elected official than that he's not working. And what happened is I was able to persuade the town board to move into new attorneys. The town attorney resigned and was out of the picture. And in the ensuing litigation and depositions, we found out much more about what's going on. And I'm going to say publicly that my opponent admitted publicly that when he said that I only raised the objection because I wasn't working, he admitted that he was angry, that he shouldn't have said it. He knew the minute he said it, it was wrong. And he admitted, to politely call it, he admitted it was a misstatement. And he also
not a lie.
And he also described it as damage control and public relations. And it's cost the town $500,000 in legal fees. And that's a lot of money. And so that's where we are. And I think we have a strong case because the town board itself never saw the agreement, never reviewed it, never approved it, and never voted on it. So that's where it is now. But it's a simple rule. You don't have a private backroom meeting with a developer and make a deal with them. And I believe, in my opinion, that's
Are
what
you
happened.
kidding?
Yeah.
A
well.
private meeting with the developer?
When I say private, there were attorneys in the room, but it was not disclosed to the town board. And as I said, it was never disclosed until the developer himself made it public, actually. That's how we found out about it. In the litigation, he finally said, oh, I had this meeting, we had a deal, and, what happened to it. So, and there are other details, but I don't want to belabor it. I'm just, to me, what I try to say to people is, what you see is what you get. It may be, nature of being a practicing lawyer at a certain point in time. I know people go like, oh, lawyers, you're always telling us one thing and doing another. And my rule of thumb with people is if you don't understand your lawyer, you need a new lawyer. I mean, you should understand what he's talking about. So I tell people with me, it's pretty much what you see is what you get. I'm not looking to play. I mean, I'll negotiate, I'll talk to somebody, but we'll do it in an above board way that the town board knows about. And that's kind of how I'd like to do business. So I hope that's what the voters want. I think it's best for the town.
So as supervisor, which is the position you're running for, what are you going to bring to our town?
Well, I hope transparency and ethics, first of all. And, the issues, we all know what the issues are. I mean, renewable energy is a big issue. We've talked before, and I know that you know a lot about
Yes.
this program. I don't even want to get into the jargon of it, but where we can combine our energy needs with other municipalities that are larger and buy renewable energy together.
CCA.
And it's a good way to, it's called CCA, and there are new avenues for solar power. There are some twists in the law that need to be worked out, but it's a really, I've been a lawyer for 35 years. It looks like they can be resolved, and it's a quick way to enter the market, and we don't need to build massive infrastructure here in town if we don't want to. And I think that's very promising. Protecting water is important as always.
Listen, my bottom line is, when you can't drink the water, what you have is nothing.
Yeah, and I like to say, and I've said it repeatedly, we all drink from the same well here.
That's right.
And, water is life.
That's right.
Water is life.
That's
so.
right, and I don't care what you call it. I remember when I called Suffolk County Water Authority, I said, so are you really part of Suffolk County?
Yeah.
And they said, no. I said, oh.
Well, Suffolk County Water, I will say this about them, when we were working with Wainscott, they did a terrific job.
I know they did a great
cooperated
job
with us.
there.
I want to make that clear because they were really good partners. And also, I can't say enough about Fred Thiel because he was just a terrific guy in that. But, we have to be careful. This is, it may sound like a small issue that, the artificial turf ball field. And there are little league parents that want it because you can play on it more, but it's not right in a community like ours where we're walking on top of the water that we drink. I mean, we gotta, we are what we are. We're a rural town, and we need our aquifers to be protected. And I think we have to watch out for not doing things that are jarring and discordant with who we are. I mean, we passed an emergency climate declaration saying every decision we make has to reflect a desire for resiliency and the elimination of greenhouse gases. And these artificial turf fields they're terrible. They're terrible products. They're largely made out of tire waste, used tires. That's how it evolved as a product. They wanted some product for these massive landfilled tires. So it's just not good. So water, energy, water, and I'll tell you the tough one is, I think people have a sense of loss in the community year by year. They feel like we're losing our rural quality. They feel like everything's unaffordable. Their kids can't live here. I do not pretend to have all the answers to that. But again, I think we can take we can take some measures, you know, to kind of insist on remaining the kind of town we want to remain. We might consider, I think, restraining house sizes now. I mean, we recently had an application for a house of, I think it was 18,000 square feet in one of the hamlets. I'm not kidding you. It was on a big piece of land, but I mean, that's a that's a castle, not a house. And we have a superstore law that defines a superstore as anything over 10,000 square feet.
You know, there's a house that I sometimes pass on one of the streets in Bridgehampton, and I always say, you know, the Queen is coming here because that's a palace, you know, and that's what some of these homes are.
I feel the same way. And, you know, and housing affordability is a really tough issue because everybody wants affordable housing and then nobody wants it near them. And I get that. I mean, it's a balance between, you know, maintaining the character of the way the place looks with the need to have year-round population here, you know, for teachers, for first responders, for firefighters, for kids. And so I'm not going to pretend that I have all the answers.
And the people who really do some of the work, I mean, like my landscapers and people like that.
Absolutely,
you know, who really,
I know.
where would we be without them?
No, they're a completely vital part of the community, hardworking, good folks, and we're lucky to have the diversity that we have in the population. It's a good thing for us, and it's going to be big part of our future. You know, it really is. So there are challenges, and I don't know. I think I like to see government be a little bit more civil, and I'll try to make it relaxed if I have anything to say about it. Who knows? I'm happy to say I got endorsed by the East Hampton Star today, and I'm very honored to have that.
So you hear that, folks? Get out and vote. It's June 22nd. I don't know which camera's on me, but June 22nd, am I correct?
Yes, or early voting June 12th at Windmill Village on Accobonac.
Exactly. Yes,
Accobonac.
yeah, and I have voted there at Windmill Village.
I did too, and I like voting early, actually.
Yeah, I do too. Okay, well, my dear, my money is on you. I really mean it.
It's always good to see you.
We need you.
Thank you, Phyllis.
I mean,